What's up, guys and girls? In this video, we're going to go over one of the deadliest weapons in Norse mythology, the cursed sword known as Tyrving. Now, it is confirmed Tyr used the sword. However, even though it has his name in it, the sword was not created for him. The sword actually has a long list of users thanks to its cursed nature. Here is the long, bloody story of the cursed sword. Before that though, here are some of the comments that got the last trivia question right in the previous video. This trivia question is, what was the final act Loki did to the gods to make them chase him, tie him up, and put a snake over his head for years? Drop your answers in the comment section now, and at the end, reply to yourself to make sure you got it right. But let's get right into the story of the sword. Our story begins with the grandson of Odin himself named Svavalami, who at the time was a king and a ruler. He trapped two dwarves named Davalin and Durlin and forced them to make a sword. The king ordered the sword to never miss its target, to never rust, and never be stopped by any armor. The dwarves agreed to make the sword for their freedom, but out of vengeance, they cursed the sword in secret. Every time the sword was drawn, it would have to kill someone, and will continue to do this until it caused three great evils. Once the dwarves handed the king the sword, they informed the king that the sword was actually cursed, and they disappeared behind the rock before the king could end their lives. This will cause a long blood trail of suffering. Shortly after the dwarves' disappearance, a berserker named Arngrim took the sword from the king and stabbed him with it, ending his life. Soon after, Arngrim's own son killed him, using the sword and now taking it for his own. This son actually led 11 of his brothers through various battles, causing destruction. All of the brothers, though, would eventually be slain to the Swedish champion and hero Hallgrimr and his Norwegian brother. However, Tyrving was drawn, and that injured Hallgrimr before he died. He asked his brother to take the sword and his body back to his home, and his death will be considered the first great evil that Tyrving caused. Later on in life, the berserker's son's daughter would travel very far to reclaim the sword as her own, and she would eventually find it. A few years later, she got married and had kids, a family of her own. One of her two sons was named Heldrick. While the brothers walked, Heldrick had drawn the sword to show his brother. However, because it was drawn, death would soon follow. Heldrick killed his brother almost as soon as he showed him the sword, and this will be considered Tyrving's second great evil. The third great evil will come decades after Heldrick killed his brother. Now, the sword has been at his side and took many lives through many battles, and eventually Heldrick became a king himself. Now grown, he was now traveling with 8 companions. However, while he was sleeping, the companions actually betrayed him. While he was sleeping, the companions used the sword to kill him, and this will be considered the third and final great evil that the sword has caused, which now cleansed it of its curse. Since the berserker killed the king for the sword has plagued this family through generation after generation. However, after Heldrick is dead, years later, his own child will come and reclaim the sword for himself. The sword will eventually go to Tyr, but this family has really suffered for it. Now let's talk about God of War and where we see it. The sword is actually extremely powerful. Like I said before, the sword never misses its target, it never rusts, and no armor can stop it. It'll pierce through almost anything. Will we see Tyr actually using this weapon? It would make perfect sense. Kratos uses the Leviathan axe, which was created by Brock and Sindri, dwarves, and Tyrving was created by Durlin and Davalin, which was given to Tyr. Both use very powerful weapons, but it also makes sense in the fact that Kratos' blades, the blades of chaos, are cursed. So Kratos and Tyr, gods of war, are using cursed weapons. The sword is obviously very symbolic when it comes to the life of Kratos as well. Again, the history of the sword, you have a son killing the father, which is the story of Kratos' life. You have a lot of betrayal involved as well. Again, I couldn't exactly find how Tyr got this sword. It's just known that Tyr actually ended up using the sword, but it isn't clear how he actually got it from this family as it was passed through their family line. Very strange there, and I hope we get to see more context, and I hope we get to see this sword actually in the game. I'm going to make a video in the future talking about all of the weapons I want to see that exist in Norse mythology, but let me know your thoughts on this weapon. Good, bad, awesome? Do you enjoy the history? Do you think the history is pretty fucked? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm gonna be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening, and the answer to your trivia question, the last thing that Loki did to the gods to make them do so much horrendous shit to him, he made fun of him. While in the Great Hall, all the gods were celebrating. Loki was not invited, but Loki ended up getting extremely drunk at this celebration and started roasting all the gods. Now, his insults were very close to being true, and this actually hurt the gods' feelings even more. You know, when you actually insult somebody and you insult them by bringing up something from their past, it stings just a little bit more, except Loki did this to the entire Great Hall. In doing so, the gods were pretty pissed. Odin was pretty pissed, and Odin actually couldn't hurt Loki because in the real myth, they're actually brothers. They swore a blood oath to one another. So Odin can't kill Loki, but he can trap him. So he gathered all the gods. They all kidnapped Loki. They made one of Loki's brothers into a wolf to kill one of Loki's other sons, and then that wolf ran off. It was an insane story, but yeah, the final thing that Loki did was insult the gods and hurt their feelings. But let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening. Deuces.